The stars had never seemed so close, yet so strange. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Perseverance, watching the view screen display something that changed everything humanity thought they knew about the universe. 3 alien ships hung in space before them, each one different in design, each one representing a species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years while humans were still learning to make fire. The radio crackled with sounds that the translation computer was working hard to decode. After 2 minutes that felt like hours, words formed from the alien signals. Greetings, unknown travelers. We are representatives of the Galactic Council. Please state your origin and intentions. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment humanity had dreamed about since they first looked up at the night sky. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the human exploration vessel Perseverance, representing Earth and the United Territories of humanity. We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship among the stars. There was a pause. Then the alien voice returned, and Sarah could hear something in it that the computer translated as excitement. Earth, humans? We have never encountered your species. This is a momentous discovery. Would you be willing to meet with us? We can arrange transport to our nearest diplomatic station. Sarah looked at her crew. They nodded. This was why they had come. We would be honored. The diplomatic station orbited a beautiful blue planet that reminded Sarah of Earth. The Galactic Council had sent 3 ambassadors to meet with the humans. When Sarah and her team, including Dr. Marcus Webb and Lieutenant Commander David Park, stepped into the meeting chamber, they saw their first aliens in person. The first was tall and elegant, standing on 4 legs with a body covered in short golden fur. Its head was refined with large, gentle eyes set on the sides of its elongated face. Ambassador Zethus of the Valorian Empire bowed its head in greeting. The gesture reminded Sarah of a deer, graceful and cautious. The second alien looked like an insect but was the size of a human. Its body was segmented with a hard shell that shimmered in green and blue colors. Multiple arms moved in patterns that seemed like a form of communication. This was Representative Clath of the Kethran Collective. The third was covered in colorful feathers with wings folded against its body and bright, intelligent eyes. It chirped melodically before the translator converted the sounds to words. I am Speaker Theron of the Plumerian Assembly. We are so pleased to meet you. The first hours of meeting went well. The aliens were curious about Earth, about human culture, about the journey that brought them to the stars. Dr. Webb shared images of Earth, its oceans and forests, its mountains and cities. The aliens seemed fascinated. Then Speaker Theron asked a simple question. Dr. Webb, you mentioned that Earth has many different species. What is humanity's place in your world's ecosystem? Dr. Webb smiled, not realizing the significance of what he was about to say. Humans are apex predators. We sit at the top of the food chain on Earth. There are other predators, of course, like lions, tigers, and bears. But humans have dominated every environment on our planet. The room went very quiet. Sarah noticed that all 3 aliens had gone completely still. Ambassador Zethus's large eyes seemed to grow even wider. Apex. Predators? Ambassador Zethus said slowly. You are predators? Carnivores? Well, we're omnivores, Dr. Webb explained, still not understanding the reaction. We eat both plants and meat. Our ancestors were hunters who used tools and cooperation to bring down large prey animals. But we also gather fruits, vegetables, grains. We're very adaptable. Representative Clath's translator made a sound like static before words came through. You hunt? You kill other living creatures for food? Lieutenant Commander Park frowned. Yes, though many humans now get their food from farms and stores. But historically, yes, humans are hunters. Is there a problem? The 3 aliens looked at each other in a way that Sarah was starting to recognize as concern. Ambassador Zethus spoke carefully. Captain Chen, in the Galactic Council, which represents over 12,000 species across 800 star systems, there are no apex predators. There are no carnivorous intelligent species. The few predatory species that evolved in the galaxy died out millions of years ago, long before achieving space travel. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What happened to them? They destroyed themselves, Speaker Theron said quietly. Every predatory species that reached a certain level of intelligence turned their hunting instincts on themselves. They made weapons. They made war. They could not overcome their nature. The galaxy learned that predators cannot build civilizations that last. Dr. Webb leaned forward. But humans have built a civilization. We have art, Music, literature, science, philosophy. We have morals and laws. Yes, we've had wars, but we've also had peace. We've learned to control our instincts. Have you? Representative Clath asked. The question hung in the air like a challenge. Over the next week, the Galactic Council sent scientists to study the humans and their ship. They asked thousands of questions about Earth, about human history, about human biology. Sarah started to see how the aliens looked at her and her crew. There was curiosity, yes, but also something else. Fear. Dr. Webb was giving a presentation about Earth's ecosystem to a group of alien scientists when one of them, a Valorian named Calrus, interrupted him. Dr. Webb, you say that humans hunted animals much larger than themselves. How is this possible? We used persistence hunting, Dr. Webb explained. Humans can run for hours without stopping. We would chase an animal until it collapsed from exhaustion. Our prey might be faster in a sprint, but we could outlast anything on Earth. We also hunted in groups using communication and strategy to surround and trap our prey. The alien scientists made sounds of distress. One of them, a Plumerian, flew from the room quickly. Sarah found Ambassador Zethus in the station's observation deck later that day. The Valorian was staring out at the stars, its body language suggesting deep thought. Ambassador, I feel like we've upset the council somehow. Can you help me understand what's wrong? Zethus turned to look at her. Those large eyes, which Sarah now realized were positioned on the sides of the head to watch for predators, studied her carefully. Captain Chen, do you know why my eyes are where they are? Sarah nodded slowly. To see danger coming from multiple directions. Prey animals on Earth have the same adaptation. Yes, my ancestors were prey. They ran from predators for millions of years before they evolved intelligence. Every species in the Galactic Council evolved from prey, or from species that had no natural predators. We built our civilizations on cooperation, on avoiding conflict, on finding peaceful solutions. Zethus paused. Your eyes are different. Sarah touched her face unconsciously. Our eyes face forward, like a predator's eyes, to track prey, to judge distance for striking. When you look at me, Captain Chen, every instinct my species has developed over millions of years tells me to run. You are what my ancestors feared in the night. Sarah felt something twist in her chest. Ambassador, humans are not monsters. We don't want to hurt anyone. I believe you, Zethus said. But believing and overcoming millions of years of evolution are two different things. The Council is afraid, Captain Chen. They are prey meeting a predator for the first time in their lives. They must decide what to do about humanity. What are the options? Sarah asked, though she was afraid she knew the answer. Welcome you as equals. Quarantine your species to your own space, or eliminate the threat before it can grow. Zethus looked back at the stars. The Council meets tomorrow to decide humanity's fate. Sarah stood next to the ambassador, looking out at the galaxy that suddenly seemed much less welcoming. Humanity had reached for the stars hoping to find friends. Instead, they had discovered that they were the thing the galaxy feared most. They were the predators in a universe of prey, and tomorrow the prey would decide if the predator could be trusted. The council chamber was enormous, filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Sarah and her team sat in a special viewing area, watching as the fate of humanity was debated by creatures who saw them as dangerous beasts. The translation computers worked constantly, converting thousands of different languages into words Sarah could understand. High Arbiter Melon, a Catherine with silver markings on its shell, stood at the center of the chamber. Its voice was calm but firm. We have gathered to discuss the humans. In 5 days, we have learned much about them. What we have learned troubles many of you. I ask that we review the evidence before making any decisions. A massive screen appeared, showing images and videos from Earth. Sarah watched as her own planet's history was displayed for the galaxy to judge. There were images of human hunters from ancient times carrying spears and tracking animals. There were pictures of human teeth, with the flat molars for grinding plants and the sharp canines for tearing meat. There were diagrams of human eyes positioned forward like a predator's rather than on the sides like prey. Then came the videos that made Sarah's stomach sink. Footage of human warfare throughout history, battles and weapons and destruction, videos of human sports, boxing and wrestling and mixed martial arts, where humans fought each other for entertainment, clips from human action movies where violence was dramatized and glorified. A Valorian representative stood, its body trembling. Look at what they do for fun. They chase balls and tackle each other, They punch each other until one falls down. They watch stories about violence and call it entertainment. This is not a species that has evolved past its predatory nature. This is a species that celebrates it. Another voice spoke up, this one from a plumerian. They keep predators in their homes. They call them pets. The information we received shows that humans domesticated wolves, turning them into dogs. They live with creatures that have fangs and could kill them, and they treat them like children. What species does this? Dr. Webb stood up in the viewing area. May I speak? High Arbiter Meln gestured for permission. The human scientist may address the council. Dr. Webb stepped forward, trying to keep his voice steady. Yes, humans evolved as predators. Yes, we have instincts that you find frightening. But we also evolved empathy, cooperation, and love. The same humans who hunted animals also protected their families. The same humans who made weapons also made art. We domesticated wolves because we recognized their intelligence and formed bonds with them. They became our partners, our friends, our family. Family? A Valorian asked. You consider predators to be family? We consider loyalty and companionship to be family, Dr. Webb said. A human and a dog can love each other. Is that not more powerful than instinct? We chose to connect with another species, to care for them and protect them. A new figure stood up, one Sarah hadn't seen before. It was a Kethrin, but larger than the others, with red markings on its shell. I am Commander Vrel of the Preservation Coalition. I have studied the humans carefully. What Dr. Webb says sounds nice, but the evidence tells a different story. Humans wage war on each other. They create weapons designed only to kill other humans. They have divided themselves into groups called nations and have fought for territory, resources, and ideas for their entire history. Commander Vrel activated another display. It showed statistics that made Sarah want to look away. Human death tolls from wars, number of weapons in existence on Earth, percentage of human resources devoted to military forces. This is not a peaceful species that happened to evolve from predators. Vrel continued. This is a predatory species that is barely keeping itself from self-destruction. And now they have faster-than-light travel. Now they want to join the galaxy, if we let them. How long before they turn those predatory instincts on us? How long before they hunt us? The chamber erupted in sounds of agreement and fear. Sarah felt helpless, watching as humanity was judged and found wanting. But then High Arbiter Meln spoke again. Commander Vrel, you speak of danger. But I see something else in the evidence. Humans had the ability to destroy themselves completely. They created weapons that could end all life on their planet. They stood at the edge of extinction by their own hands. But they did not fall over that edge. They stepped back. They made treaties. They created laws to govern themselves. Does that not show control? It shows hesitation, Vrel responded. Not change. The weapons still exist. The capacity for violence still exists. We would be fools to trust them. Ambassador Zethis stood and the chamber quieted. Zethis was respected among the council, and its words carried weight. I have spent time with the humans. I have looked into Captain Chen's eyes, the forward-facing eyes of a predator, and I have been afraid. But I have also listened to her words. I have seen her concern for her crew. I have watched how she thinks before she acts. Yes, she is a predator, but she is also a person. A person who could kill you without effort, Vrel said. Did you see the human called Lieutenant Commander Park? His reaction time is 3 times faster than the average Valorian. His grip strength is enough to crush a Plumerian's bones. These are not just intelligent beings. They are living weapons. Sarah had heard enough. She stood up and her voice carried across the chamber. You're right. The chamber went silent. All eyes turned to her. You're right, Sarah repeated. Humans are dangerous. We evolved to hunt, to fight, to survive in a world that wanted to kill us. We have instincts that you find frightening because your species never had to develop them. But those same instincts taught us other things too. We learned to work together because a lone human couldn't survive. We learned to communicate because coordinating a hunt required language. We learned to care for our injured and elderly because we valued every member of our group. Yes, we can be violent, but we can also choose not to be. A Valorian representative spoke up, its voice shaking. But how do we know you will make that choice? How do we know you won't decide one day that the galaxy is prey and you are the hunter? Sarah looked around the chamber at hundreds of faces, all different, all watching her with fear. You don't know. You have to trust us, just like we have to trust that you won't destroy us because you're afraid. We came to the stars looking for friends, not victims. We want to learn from you, to share with you, to build something together. But if you can't see past what we are to who we are, then maybe the galaxy isn't ready for humanity." The debate continued for hours. Some voices argued for giving humanity a chance. Others demanded that Earth be quarantined, that humans be forbidden from leaving their own star system. A few, led by Commander Vrel, quietly suggested that the human problem should be eliminated before it grew larger. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood in her quarters on the Perseverance looking out at the stars. They had come so far, dreamed so big, and now it was all falling apart because of something humans couldn't change. They were what evolution had made them. Dr. Webb came to her quarters. He looked tired. "I've been going through the data we collected on the Council species. I wanted to understand them better." "Did you learn anything useful?" Sarah asked. "Maybe. Every species in the Council evolved on worlds that were relatively safe. Their planets had few predators, stable climates, and abundant resources. They never had to fight for survival the way humans did. Earth made us what we are, Sarah. It was a harsh teacher. So we're the products of a cruel world, and they're the products of kind ones," Sarah said. "That doesn't seem fair." "No," Webb agreed. "But maybe it's not about fair. Maybe it's about balance. They have things we don't, peace and cooperation that comes naturally, and we have things they don't. The ability to fight," Sarah said quietly. "The ability to survive," Webb corrected. "The ability to face danger and not run." Before Sarah could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The Perseverance's communication system activated automatically. "Captain Chen, this is station security. We have an emergency situation. Someone has breached Ambassador Zethus's quarters. The ambassador may be in danger." Sarah was running before she finished hearing the message. Dr. Webb followed her. They raced through the station's corridors, their longer strides and greater endurance letting them quickly outpace the alien security forces, who were also responding. They reached Zethus's quarters just as the door opened. Inside, they could see a figure standing over Zethus, holding a weapon that crackled with energy. The figure wore a mask, but its body shape marked it as a Kethran. What happened next took only seconds but would change everything. Sarah's mind processed the scene with the pattern recognition of a hunter. Threat to ally, weapon raised, distance of 8 meters. Her body reacted with the speed of a predator. She crossed the distance before the attacker could fire, her hand striking the weapon away with precision. The attacker tried to turn the weapon toward her, but Sarah was already moving, using techniques that came from thousands of years of human combat experience. In 3 moves, the attacker was on the ground, disarmed and restrained. The whole thing took 5 seconds. Security forces arrived to find Sarah standing over the subdued attacker, breathing hard but controlled. Ambassador Zethus was unharmed, pressed against the far wall, staring at Sarah with those large prey animal eyes. "Captain Chen," Zethus whispered. "You moved so fast. You didn't hesitate. The security footage played again on every screen throughout the Council networks. Scientists and analysts studied every frame, breaking down what had happened in Ambassador Zethus's quarters. The numbers they calculated made the galaxy fall silent with a kind of awe that was mixed with terror. Dr. Kelris, the Valorian xenobiologist, presented the findings to a packed council chamber. Charts and graphs appeared on the massive displays, showing data that nobody could ignore. Captain Sarah Chen crossed 8 meters in 1.3 seconds, Dr. Kelris said, its voice trembling slightly. Her reaction time from seeing the threat to moving was 0.15 seconds. The average Valorian reaction time is 0.5 seconds. The average Kethran reaction time is 0.4 seconds. Captain Chen reacted 3 times faster than most of us could even process what was happening. The chamber filled with nervous sounds. Dr. Kelris continued. But speed is only part of the analysis. Watch how she moves. The footage played again in slow motion. See how her eyes track the weapon? She's not just reacting. She's predicting where it will be. Her brain is calculating trajectory, distance, and timing without conscious thought. This is pattern recognition that evolved over millions of years of hunting. She sees threats the way we see food or shelter. Automatically, instantly. A Plumerian scientist stood up. What about the physical confrontation? How much force did she use? Dr. Kelris pulled up more data. This is where it becomes truly frightening. Captain Chen weighs approximately 70 kilograms. The Kethran attacker weighs 90 kilograms and has an exoskeleton. Yet Captain Chen controlled the situation with minimal effort. Her striking force was calculated at over 2,000 newtons. That's enough force to break bones in most council species. But she didn't break any bones, Ambassador Zethis said from its seat. She controlled her strength. She knew exactly how much force to use. Exactly, Dr. Kelris agreed. And that might be the most disturbing part. Captain Chen has such precise control over her predatory capabilities that she can choose how much damage to inflict. She's not just a weapon. She's a weapon with a safety switch, and she decides when to flip it. High Arbiter Mellon stood up. We asked the humans to provide more information about their physical capabilities. They sent us data from something they call military training. I think the Council should see it. Videos began playing from human military bases. The Council watched as human soldiers ran for kilometers without stopping. Their persistence hunting instincts turned into endurance training. They watched humans climb walls, swim through rough water, and navigate obstacle courses that would kill most Council species. They watched hand-to-hand combat training, where humans practiced hundreds of ways to disable or kill other humans. Then came the weapons demonstrations. Human firearms that could kill from a kilometer away, explosives that could destroy buildings, vehicles designed for combat, aircraft that moved faster than sound. This is just from Earth, High Arbiter Mellon said quietly. This is what they created to fight each other. Imagine what they could create to fight us. Commander Vrel stood up, its shell seeming to glow with anger. The Council has seen enough. Humans are exactly what we feared. They are predators who have refined their killing abilities to a science. That security footage doesn't show heroism. It shows a predator defending its territory. Ambassador Zethis was useful to the humans, so Captain Chen protected that asset. Don't mistake pragmatism for morality. Ambassador Zethis rose, its legs shaking but its voice firm. Commander Vrel, I was there. I looked into Captain Chen's eyes when she asked if I was all right. I know the difference between concern and calculation. She was afraid for me. Predators protect their pack, Vrel shot back. You're not part of her pack. You're prey that happens to be useful. For now. Dr. Webb requested permission to speak again. When it was granted, he approached the center of the chamber with a data pad. The Council has focused on human physical capabilities and our capacity for violence. But you're missing important context.
May I share some additional data?
High Arbiter Mellon gestured approval. Dr. Webb activated his data pad, and new images appeared on the screens. This is a human hospital, he said, showing a building full of medical equipment. Humans spend enormous resources caring for the sick and injured. We invented medicine, surgery, and life support systems to keep each other alive. Predators? Yes, but predators who value life, he changed the image. This is a human school. We created universal education systems to teach our children, not just survival skills, but art, music, mathematics, and ethics. We don't just teach them how to hunt. We teach them how to think, another image. This is a human rescue team. When disasters happen, humans run toward danger to save others. We have entire organizations dedicated to helping people, not just our own species. We save whales, elephants, and countless other animals from extinction. We protect creatures that can't protect themselves. You also caused many of those extinctions in the first place. Commander Vrel interjected. Your own records show that humans hunted dozens of species to extinction before you developed conservation efforts. The damage you caused far exceeds the repairs you've made. Dr. Webb nodded sadly. You're right. Humanity has made terrible mistakes. We've destroyed parts of our own planet. We've wiped out species. We've fought wars that killed millions of our own people. But we learned from those mistakes. We changed. That's the point Commander Vrel doesn't want to acknowledge. Humans can learn. We can grow. We're not slaves to our instincts. A new voice entered the debate. It came from a Valorian female named Scholar Prin, who was known throughout the Council for her wisdom. I have been studying the human concept of morality. It's fascinating. Humans developed complex ethical systems despite their predatory nature. Or perhaps because of it, they needed rules to control their dangerous instincts. They created laws, religions, and philosophies all designed to answer one question. How do we be good when we're capable of so much harm? Scholar Prin moved to the center of the chamber. Every council species developed morality from abundance. We had enough food, enough safety, enough resources that cooperation was easy. But humans developed morality from scarcity and danger. They chose to be good when being bad would have been easier. That's not weakness. That's strength. Commander Vrel's voice was sharp. Scholar Prin, Are you seriously suggesting we should admire humans for barely controlling their violent urges? They're like a bomb that might not explode. The fact that it hasn't gone off yet doesn't make it safe. No, Scholar Prince said calmly. I'm suggesting that a species that can recognize its own danger and actively work against it might be more trustworthy than species who never had to face that choice. We've never been tested. Humans test themselves every day. The debate raged for hours. Finally, High Arbiter Meln called for order. The Council will take a recess. We will reconvene tomorrow to vote on humanity's status. The options remain: full membership, restricted contact, quarantine, or elimination of the threat. I urge all representatives to consider carefully. This decision will shape the future of the galaxy. That evening, Sarah sat with her crew in their quarters. The mood was somber. Lieutenant Commander Park was angry. They're talking about eliminating us, actually discussing killing everyone on Earth because they're afraid of what we might do. It's insane. It's fear, Dr. Webb said. And fear makes people think in extremes. To them, we're the monsters from their ancient nightmares made real. Sarah looked at her hands. These hands that had saved Ambassador Zethus. These hands that could also kill. Maybe they're right to be afraid. We are dangerous, so what? Lieutenant Commander Park said. We're supposed to apologize for existing. We didn't choose to evolve this way. Earth made us survivors. That's not a crime. Dr. Webb leaned forward. No, but how we use those survival skills is a choice. That's what we need to show them. We're not just survivors. We are protectors. A message came through on Sarah's personal communicator. It was from Ambassador Zethus requesting a private meeting. Sarah agreed and went alone to meet the Valorian in a quiet observation room. Zethus stood looking out at the stars, its body silhouetted against the cosmic backdrop. Captain Chen, I need to tell you something. When you saved my life, my body's instincts screamed at me to run from you. Every fiber of my being saw you as a threat, but my mind knew you were there to help. Do you know how difficult it is to fight millions of years of evolution? I think I do, Sarah said quietly. Every time we choose peace over violence, we're fighting our evolution too. Zethus turned to face her. I'm going to speak at the council tomorrow. I'm going to tell them that I trust you. But I need you to understand what I'm asking of humanity. I need you to always be what you were in that moment. Fast enough to protect us, strong enough to stop threats, but controlled enough to know when to stop. Can humans do that? Can you be the predator that doesn't hunt? Sarah thought about Earth, about human history, about all the wars and all the peace treaties, about all the violence and all the compassion. I can't promise we'll be perfect. Humans make mistakes, sometimes terrible ones, but I can promise we'll try. We'll try to be worthy of your trust. The vote was close. Out of 873 council worlds, 441 voted to grant humanity restricted membership. 298 voted for quarantine. 134 voted for elimination. It wasn't the overwhelming welcome Sarah had hoped for, but it was enough. Humanity could join the galaxy, though they would be watched closely and their expansion would be limited for the first 50 years. Commander Vrel and the Preservation Coalition were not happy with the result, but they accepted it. The Council had spoken. For the next 3 months, humanity began the complicated process of integrating with galactic civilization. Trade agreements were negotiated. Cultural exchanges were arranged. Human diplomats worked around the clock to build relationships with species who were still nervous about their new, dangerous neighbors. Then everything changed. The alert came through every communication channel simultaneously. High Arbiter Meln's voice was tight with fear as it broadcast to all Council worlds and to Earth. This is an emergency Council session. 3 days ago, our outer monitoring stations detected a fleet of unknown ships entering Council space from the Galactic Rim. We sent diplomatic vessels to make contact. They were destroyed without warning. The unknown fleet has since attacked 7 of our colony worlds. We are under invasion by a hostile species. We are calling for all Council members to mobilize their defense forces immediately. Sarah was in a meeting with Earth's government when the message came through. She watched as video footage from the attacked colonies played on the screens. The attackers were like nothing the Council had seen before. They moved in coordinated packs, their ships fast and aggressive. When they landed on planets, they hunted down the inhabitants with brutal efficiency. Dr. Webb was studying the footage intently. Sarah, look at how they move. Look at their body structure. Sarah watched. The aliens were bipedal, covered in thick scales with powerful limbs and jaws filled with sharp teeth. Their eyes faced forward. They moved in groups, communicating with each other as they hunted. They're predators, Sarah said quietly. Like us? Worse than us in some ways, Dr. Webb said. They're pack hunters, but they don't seem to have developed the empathy or cooperation beyond their immediate group. They hunt other species the way humans used to hunt deer. For them, the council species are just prey. Earth's Defense Minister Admiral Victoria Zhao stood up. How is the council's military responding? According to the reports, not well, said Ambassador Chen's replacement coordinator. The council has defense forces, but they've never dealt with an aggressive predator species before. Their tactics are designed for territorial disputes, not for enemies who actively hunt them. Admiral Zhao pulled up a tactical display. The council ships are faster and have better shields, but they're being outmaneuvered. These attackers, whoever they are, think like hunters. They're using pack tactics, isolating council ships and overwhelming them with numbers. The council forces are defending, but they're not fighting. What's the difference? Someone asked. Everything, Admiral Zhao said. Defending means protecting what you have. Fighting means taking the battle to the enemy. Prey defends. Predators fight, Sarah stood up. We need to contact the council. We need to offer help. Within hours, Sarah was back on a ship headed for council space. But this time she wasn't alone. Earth had mobilized its defense fleet. 300 military vessels, carrying the best-trained soldiers and pilots humanity could offer, were ready to jump to the council's aid. When Sarah arrived at the council's military coordination center, she found chaos. High Arbiter Meln was trying to coordinate defenses across dozens of star systems simultaneously. The Valorian leader looked exhausted. Captain Chen, Meln said, the situation is worse than we initially reported. The attackers have taken 8 colonies now. We've lost over 40 ships. Our analysts estimate we're facing a force of at least 500 enemy vessels. We've identified their species from our historical records. They call themselves the Kryn. They're from beyond the rim, from an area we've never fully explored. Tell me about them, Sarah said. A Kethran military coordinator brought up data files. The Kryn are omnivores who evolved on a death world similar to Earth. They achieved spaceflight about 200 years ago. Our few encounters with them were brief and violent. We thought they were confined to their region. We were wrong. They've been building their fleet and now they're expanding. They see the council as prey. Sarah studied the tactical displays. How are you deploying your forces? We're establishing defensive perimeters around our most important worlds, Melon explained. We're trying to prevent them from advancing further into council space. Admiral Zhao, who had accompanied Sarah, shook her head. That's the wrong strategy. You're letting them choose the battleground. You're reacting instead of acting. What would you suggest? Meln asked, and there was no pride in the question, only desperation. Let us hunt them, Admiral Zhao said. The Kryn are predators, but they're not expecting to face other predators. They think they're at the top of the food chain. We need to show them they're wrong. High Arbiter Melon looked at Sarah. Is your species ready for this? You've just joined the council. We're asking you to fight a war that isn't yours. Sarah thought about Ambassador Zethus trusting her despite every instinct saying not to. She thought about the council choosing to give humanity a chance despite their fear. You gave us a place in the galaxy. That makes this our war too. The council agreed to let humanity lead the military response. It was a desperate decision born from the fact that nothing else was working. Admiral Zhao took command of the combined human council fleet. The first engagement happened near a colony called Preth VI. The Kryn had attacked the planet and were hunting the evacuating population. 20 Kryn ships were in orbit, confident and aggressive. Admiral Zhao's fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. The Kryn immediately moved to intercept, just as she had predicted they would. They saw the fleet as a challenge, as prey trying to defend itself. All human vessels, remember your training, Admiral Zhao broadcast. These enemies think like we do. Use that against them. Council ships, stay in defensive formation behind us. Protect yourselves and provide support fire. Let us do what humans do best. The Kryn ships accelerated toward the human fleet in a classic pack formation, planning to overwhelm them with speed and numbers. But Admiral Zhao had studied the footage from previous battles. She knew how the Kryn hunted. Execute maneuver Delta 7, she ordered. The human fleet split apart suddenly, moving in 3 different directions. The Kryn pack formation, designed to attack a single defensive cluster, suddenly had no clear target. They hesitated for just a moment, trying to decide which group to chase. That moment was all Admiral Zhao needed. Fire on my mark, she said. The 3 human groups had positioned themselves in a perfect triangulation around the Kryn. Mark, human weapons fired from 3 directions simultaneously. The Kryn, caught in the crossfire, tried to scatter, but their pack instincts made them cluster together defensively. It was exactly what they would do when hunting if their prey suddenly became dangerous. But that instinct, which served them well against council ships, made them easy targets for humans who understood predator psychology. Within 5 minutes, 12 Kryn ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 8 tried to retreat, but human fighters pursued them with the same relentless persistence their ancestors had used to chase prey across African plains. Only 3 Kryn ships escaped to jump to faster-than-light speed. The victory was decisive, but Admiral Zhao knew it was just the beginning. All ships reform on my position. We're going on the offensive. It's time to show the Kryn what it's like to be prey. Over the next 2 weeks, Admiral Zhao's fleet hunted the Kryn across council space. The human ships used tactics that made perfect sense to predators, but were completely foreign to the prey species council members who watched. They set traps, leaving what appeared to be vulnerable targets that were actually ambushes. They used hit-and-run attacks, striking quickly and disappearing before the Kryn could organize a response. They coordinated their movements like a wolf pack, each ship knowing its role without needing constant communication. The council military coordinators watched in amazement as human commanders made decisions that seemed reckless, but somehow worked. A Valorian admiral asked Admiral Zhao how she knew when to attack and when to retreat. Instinct, Admiral Zhao said. I grew up hunting with my father. You learn to read your prey, to know when they're scared, when they're tired, when they're about to run or fight. The Kryn aren't that different from deer. They're just armed. But the war wasn't without cost. Human ships took damage. Soldiers were injured and killed. Each loss hurt, but the humans pressed on with a determination that awed and frightened the council species watching them. Sarah was on the bridge of the Perseverance, which had been equipped with military weapons for the conflict, when they encountered a Kryn commander who was smarter than the others. The Kryn had studied human tactics and set their own trap. 3 human ships, including the Perseverance, were ambushed by a Kryn force twice their size. The Kryn commander broadcast a message translated by the ship's computer. You think the council chamber was transformed. Where once there had been empty seats and sparse attendance, now every position was filled. Representatives from all 873 council worlds had come to witness this moment. High Arbiter Melon stood at the center, but today, the focus was on the humans standing before the assembly. Admiral Victoria Zhao, Captain Sarah Chen, Dr. Marcus Webb, and a dozen other human representatives waited as the chamber fell silent. The last time they had stood here, they were being judged. Today was different. High Arbiter Melon's voice carried across the vast space. The council recognizes the humans who defended our worlds, protected our people, and drove back an enemy we could not defeat alone. Captain Chen, Admiral Zhao, you and your species have proven yourselves to be more than we dared hope. The restrictions on your membership are hereby removed. Earth and humanity are granted full, unrestricted membership in the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted in sounds of approval, but Melon raised an appendage for silence. There is more. The Council has voted to offer humanity the position of Primary Defense Coordinator. You would lead the Council's military forces, train our soldiers, and be the first line of defense against external threats. This has never been offered to any species in Council history. Do you accept? Sarah looked at Admiral Zhao, who nodded. Sarah stepped forward. We accept, with conditions. We won't be just your military. We want to integrate with your worlds, share our culture, and learn yours. We want to teach you how to defend yourselves, not make you dependent on us. And most importantly, we want the galaxy to understand something. Being able to fight doesn't mean we want to. We're predators who choose to protect. That's the promise humanity makes to the Council. Ambassador Zethus stood from its seat. The Valorian Empire seconds this acceptance. We have learned that danger in the service of others is not danger at all. It's strength. Humanity is dangerous, yes, but they are dangerous on our behalf. There is no greater ally. Over the following year, humanity's role in the galaxy transformed completely. Human military advisors were stationed on Council worlds, training local defense forces. But they didn't just teach combat. They taught strategy, leadership, and the psychology of conflict. A Plemarian soldier named Kirath was in one of the first training groups. The young pilot had volunteered to learn from humans despite being terrified of them. On the first day, Kirath found itself in a training room with Sergeant Anna Rodriguez, the same human who had become famous for stopping the assassination attempt on Ambassador Zethus. Kirath's feathers bristled with fear as Sergeant Rodriguez approached. But the human moved slowly, carefully, keeping her body language open and non-threatening. "I know you're scared of me," Rodriguez said gently. "That's okay. Your instincts are telling you to fly away. But I need you to trust your mind instead of your instincts, just like I have to every day." "You have to fight your instincts?" Kirath asked, surprised. Rodriguez nodded. "Every single day. My instincts tell me to see everything as a potential threat. They tell me to react with aggression when I'm challenged, but I choose not to listen. That's what makes humans different from the Kryn. We can say no to our nature." Over weeks of training, Kirath learned more than combat techniques. The human learned that Rodriguez had lost friends in the war with the Kryn. She had killed enemy soldiers and still had nightmares about it. But she kept serving because she believed in protecting others. "Humans feel guilty about violence?" Kirath asked one day. "Of course," Rodriguez said. "Just because we're good at something doesn't mean we enjoy it. I've taken lives to save lives. That doesn't make it easy. It makes it necessary. There's a difference." Stories like this spread across the council. The humans weren't the mindless predators that some had feared. They were people struggling with the same moral questions as everyone else, just from a different starting point. The Guardian program, as it came to be called, expanded rapidly. Human-led military units were formed with mixed crews of humans and council species. The dynamics were challenging at first. Prey species had to overcome millions of years of instinct to work alongside predators. Humans had to learn to move more slowly, speak more softly, and constantly be aware of how intimidating they could be. But it worked. A human pilot named Jackson Chen and a Valorian engineer named Orthus served together on the Guardian cruiser Swift Justice. At first, Orthus couldn't be in the same room as Jackson without wanting to flee. But over time, as they worked together, Orthus realized something. "You're not scary when you're concentrating on a task," Orthus told Jackson one day. "You're just another person trying to do their job well." Jackson smiled. "And you're not skittish when you're focused on engineering. You're brilliant and precise. Maybe we're all just people, Orthus. The predator and prey thing is just biology. Who we choose to be is what matters." They became friends, an unlikely pairing that symbolized what the galaxy was becoming. Their crew performed rescue operations, defended trade routes, and responded to emergencies. They weren't just soldiers. They were guardians of a new galactic order. Dr. Webb, meanwhile, was running a different kind of program. He had established the Interspecies Research Institute, dedicated to understanding the biological and psychological differences between species. The goal was to help everyone work together more effectively. One of his most important findings was about fear response. Council species have evolved to freeze or flee when confronted with danger, he explained in a lecture. Humans have evolved to fight or assess. Neither response is better. They're just different. But when we work together, we cover each other's weaknesses. Your caution prevents reckless action. Our courage prevents paralysis. Together, we're more effective than either could be alone. The Institute also studied the Kryn. Ships had been sent to their space under flags of truce. Initial contact was hostile, but eventually a dialogue opened. Dr. Webb worked with Kryn scientists to understand their culture. What he found was troubling and familiar. The Kryn were like humans had been centuries ago, trapped in a cycle of aggression and expansion. But unlike humans, they had never developed strong ethical frameworks to control their instincts. "They need what we had," Dr. Webb reported to the council. "They need time, pressure, and examples of a better way. We can't change them by force. We can only show them that predators can choose to be more than their nature demands." Not everyone agreed. Commander Vrel, who had opposed humanity from the beginning, spoke out against any contact with the Kryn. "They attacked us. They killed thousands. Now you want to rehabilitate them? They're predators just like humans, but without any of humanity's restraint," Admiral Zhao responded calmly. "Commander Vrel, I understand your anger. I lost people in that war too. But here's what I learned fighting the Kryn. They're not evil. They're just doing what their evolution taught them. The same evolution that taught humans to hunt. We had to learn to be better. Maybe we can help them learn too. Or would you prefer we had been judged only by our worst instincts and never given a chance?" The debate continued, but gradually a cultural exchange program was established with the Kryn. It was limited and carefully monitored, but it was a start. Young Kryn came to Council Worlds to learn, to see different ways of living. Some rejected the lessons. Others embraced them. A Kryn named Throck attended Dr. Webb's institute for a year. At first, Throck was aggressive and dismissive, seeing the Council species as weak. But watching humans work alongside prey species, seeing the mutual respect and cooperation, slowly changed Throck's perspective. "You're predators who protect prey," Throck said to Dr. Webb one day, clearly struggling with the concept. "This makes no sense. Why would you fight for beings weaker than yourself?" "Because strength isn't just about physical power," Dr. Webb explained. "It's about building something that lasts. Civilizations built on domination collapse. Civilizations built on cooperation thrive. Humans learned this the hard way. Maybe the Kryn can learn it more easily." 5 years after first contact, the galaxy had changed dramatically. Human culture had spread across Council Worlds. Human cuisine, human music, human sports all became part of the broader galactic culture. But it went both ways. Humans learned Valorian philosophy, Kethran mathematics, and Plumerian art. Mixed species crews were now common. Human children grew up with alien friends. Prey species who had once feared to be in the same room as humans now worked beside them daily. The instinctive fear never fully disappeared, but it was manageable. Overshadowed by familiarity and friendship, Sarah Chen, now Ambassador General Chen, stood in the same observation deck where she had once talked with Ambassador Zethus. She was older now, with gray in her hair and lines around her eyes. Zethus stood beside her, also showing age in the way its movements had slowed slightly. "Do you remember when we first met here?" Zethus asked. "I was terrified of you. Every fiber of my being screamed that you were dangerous." "I remember," Sarah said. "You trusted me anyway. That took more courage than anything I've ever done." "No," Zethus said. "You saved my life when you could have let me die." "UFO,